Hi, and welcome to this quick tip on the subject of auxiliary notes. Now that sounds like something that's terribly complicated, but really it isn't. Sometimes when you're writing music, or you may just want to be able to see this in music that you're playing, sometimes you might, for example, have two notes that are the same. So if I play C followed by C, and maybe I've got a chord of C that fits with that, I might think, well, that's a little bit static. I could do with a bit of movement in the top part. And this is where an auxiliary note can be terribly useful. So how does an auxiliary note work? Well, if I've got two notes, so a note repeated, like these two C's that we're talking about, I could just dip down one and come back. And that would be called a lower auxiliary note. Now, it only works like this. If I start with a C and I put a chord of C underneath it, so there's my chord of C, C, E, G, and C, and I'm going to have these two C's in my melodic line, but I just want to do this, you can hear that that B, the note lower than the C, doesn't fit with this chord of C. It's a bit of a clash with it, isn't it? But if I just tuck it in, so I've got C, B, C, which is what I've written here, that B is what we know as a lower auxiliary note. So if that's a lower auxiliary note, I'm sure you can work out what an upper auxiliary note is. And it's what I've written on the board alongside it. So instead of going C, B, C, going down one, I could go up one from C to D. So here's an upper auxiliary note going C, D, C. And again, the D doesn't belong to the chord of C, does it? I'm just slipping it in between those two C's. So there's an upper auxiliary note. You could even have a situation where you have an upper auxiliary note and then you come back and have a lower auxiliary note. Or start with a lower auxiliary note, then the upper one. And if you just tuck an auxiliary note in between two beats, then it's an unaccented auxiliary note. If you put your auxiliary note on a beat, then it becomes an accented auxiliary note and it will feel a bit stronger. So these are both examples of unaccented auxiliary notes. Here's the first one, the lower auxiliary note. And here's the second one, the upper auxiliary note. But here they come as accented auxiliary notes. So if I have a chord of C and then I put the B on the beat, then that's accented, it's coming on the beat. Or the other one, the upper auxiliary note as an accented auxiliary note. So you can see it's a possibility just to express a melodic line a little bit more and to create a bit of movement when you might be a little bit stuck with repeated notes. So it's a useful little tip there for composers trying to embellish melodies. Might also be useful for people playing music wondering how a note fits into the chords that are going on. So there we are. Have fun exploring auxiliary notes.